Surf Excel නම් භාගයයි මාසයකට වඩා රිදි සෝතයි.
හරිම සුළුයි.
Tonight on First at 9 this Monday, the 27th of February 2023. A more resilient Sri Lanka. US Ambassador to Colombo Julie Chung calls Sri Lanka to have a critical business environment that is transparent and inclusive.
Open investment climate will be key to lasting prosperity.
Also expresses US support for a stronger Sri Lanka.
I am confident we will see the emergence of a stronger and more resilient Sri Lanka.
Much needed. International Finance Corporation announces a $400 million cross-currency swap to Sri Lanka to help fund essential imports. Baseless. No decision to suspend National Fuel Pass QR system, clarifies Subject Minister. New law. State Minister of Investment Promotion says the President's recent remarks on the setting up of a new economic commission for investments relates to a new law which will fast-track investment approvals.
But it is not about the power. There is a oversight committee which he has appointed to do a sort of investment law. New laws will fast-track things.
Alliance Finance මෙතුරු රන්නයි සේවාවෙන් රන් පවුම්කට රුපියල් 1,70,000ක ඉහළ අධිකාරමක්.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9 with Suzanne Shinali. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening, and you're joining us on First at 9, and we are starting off tonight's bulletin with the updates on the election. The Supreme Court decided to consider the petition filed by Samagijana Balawegaya General Secretary Ranjith Madhuwa Bandara on the 3rd of March 2023. The petition sought an order by the Supreme Court to declare that the fundamental rights of the people have been infringed by the failure to hold local government elections. This order was given when the matter was taken up in the court earlier today.
Recently, the General Secretary of the Samagijana Balawegaya, Ranjith Madhuwa Bandara, petitioned the Supreme Court requesting an order declaring that the failure to hold the local government election violates the fundamental rights of the people. Speaking in court on behalf of the Attorney General today, Additional Solicitor General Nereen Pulle requested the Supreme Court to consider this petition on the 11th of May, highlighting that a similar petition is also scheduled to be taken up on the same date. Meanwhile, during the proceedings, the attorney for the petitioning party, President's Counsel Upul Jayasuriya, requested the petition to be considered by a different bench of Supreme Court justices, claiming that Justice S. Thurai Raja of the current bench voiced his opinion in this matter earlier. In response, Justice S. Thurai Raja stated that he has not provided an opinion on this particular petition before, and that court proceedings on a petition pertaining to the election was postponed to the 11th of May based on the facts presented to court when it was considered. However, considering that no attorneys have decided to represent the respondents named in the petition filed by Ranjith Madhuwa Bandara, the Supreme Court decided to postpone the consideration of the petition to the 3rd of March 2023.
As the 52nd session of the United Nations Human Rights Council began in Geneva today, former Foreign Minister, Independent Parliamentarian Professor G.L. Pieris warns that Sri Lanka will face objection internationally for postponing local government elections. Addressing a media briefing today, Professor Pieris said that Sri Lanka will be under heavy scrutiny of the international community during the ongoing UNHRC session.
Neither at the provincial council level nor at the local government level is there any semblance of democracy functioning in this country. No democracy, wiped out. It has evaporated into thin air. No elections, no elected representatives. That is the essence of democracy, the litmus test of democracy. If there are no elections, if the people are not given the opportunity to express their will and pleasure at freely conducted elections at regular intervals, not only is there a dilution of democracy, but a complete removal of the essential features, the fundamental, the irreducible features of a functioning democratic state. That is the position which has been brought about by the refusal of the Secretary to the Treasury to release these funds for the purpose of conducting elections that are required by the Constitution of this country. So those are the consequences within the island, internal consequences. Let us now focus for a moment on the external consequences, which are no less devastating, in fact even more horrendous. Today, the 52nd session of the Human Rights Council commences in Geneva, and Sri Lanka is one of the countries that will receive a very sharp focus. It is certainly not going to help our cause when the whole world knows that there is a contemptuous rejection of elections, a cavalier, light-hearted attitude, humor, jokes regarding the suspension of the entire democratic process. Some people might find it amusing, but certainly not the international community. Certainly not the representatives of nations gathered in Geneva at the 52nd meeting of the Human Rights Council.
Parliamentarian Ranjit Bandara states that the leaders of the SJB and NPP should decide on the best course action for the country and act accordingly. He made these remarks speaking at a media briefing of the Sri Lanka Podujana Perumana earlier today.
An individual without a proper program and someone who assumed power by creating uncertainty in the country cannot remain in power. As a party, we are against postponing local government elections. We are always of the opinion that the elections should be held on time. We should seek the people's mandate. We supported the president at the time to prevent a possible destruction of the state. Decisions taken by the president are not the decisions of our party. We engage in politics to secure government power in order to ensure security of the state. We have to act wise at this time. What is the best course of action? I would like to ask the leaders of the opposition and the Janata Vimukti Peramuna. Should we solve the economic crisis of the country, or do they have an alternative to the IMF negotiations? If not, they should stop weakening the government.
ජනතා විරෝධී වැඩපිළිවෙල නතර කරනවාද කියන එකට අපි උත්තර ලබා ගන්න කැමතියි.
The General Secretary of the United National Party says that steps have already been taken to expel the UNP members who obtained nominations from the SJB. Speaking at a media briefing of the United National Party, Palitha Range Bandara further mentioned that the next couple of weeks will be crucial for many in terms of politics.
Sajid Premadas's SJB will have no chance of winning the next general election. The party will be scattered into pieces. UNP local government representatives who got their nominations from the SJB have no chance left. Letters to expel those representatives have already been sent. If there are candidates who have aligned themselves with the SJB or any other party, the working committee has given approval to expel them from the party and appoint a new group.
U.S. Ambassador in Colombo, Julie Chung, expresses confidence in the emergence of a stronger and more resilient Sri Lanka that is increasingly capable of protecting sovereignty and developing strong institutions, enabling prosperity for all Sri Lankans. Addressing a discussion on a shared vision for the Indo-Pacific, the U.S. envoy said that the U.S. hopes to witness the provision of financing assurances of all major countries to Sri Lanka to recover from the economic crisis.
A seminar on a shared vision for the Indo-Pacific organized by the US Embassy in Colombo and the General Sir John Kotalawala Defence University was held in Colombo this afternoon. During the event, the publication A Shared Vision for the Indo-Pacific, Implications for South Asia was also launched.
Many countries have also their own Indo-Pacific strategies that align with many of our shared values. So to be clear, this is not about choosing countries. It's about choosing values. It's also important to keep in mind that what happens in the Indo-Pacific can impact the entire globe. And this particularly applies to Sri Lanka, which, as we all know, sits next to some of the world's busiest shipping lanes. And that's no small responsibility. Maritime trade in the Indian Ocean carries 2/3 of global oil shipments and 1/3 of global bulk cargo. This builds upon the total of $11 billion we have invested in the Indo-Pacific region since 2018. Notably, here in Sri Lanka, we've announced nearly $270 million in new U.S. support since last June to bolster Sri Lanka's economy and help ensure that children have food at school and that farmers have fertilizer they need for successful crops. We are just about to welcome another shipment of the TSP fertilizer to Sri Lanka in the coming weeks that will be here in time ahead of the Yala season. Good economic governance and good political governance go hand in hand. So let me be clear. The U.S. is Sri Lanka's partner and stands with Sri Lanka as it navigates through this difficult time. As you navigate the process of obtaining support from the IMF, and I hope that we can very quickly see a commitment on specific and credible financing assurances from all major countries invested in Sri Lanka's future to help Sri Lanka get back to the path to economic recovery. I would also note that while Sri Lanka's natural resources and entrepreneurial spirit create enormous economic potential, but to fully realize that potential, it's critical to have a business environment that is transparent and fully inclusive. Because beyond just the immediate economic recovery, the longer-term open investment climate will be key to lasting prosperity. And that's why the U.S. is also committed to support policies that strengthen financial institutions, public finances, and foster sustainable and inclusive economic growth, and help attract more international investment. The U.S. will also serve as the host of APEC later this year with the theme Creating a Resilient and Sustainable Future for All. As we've learned during the past few years, collaboration is key to building resilience. And as we face the global challenge of climate change, we will all need to work on this together. That's why the U.S. is partnering with Sri Lanka in programs that encourage the deployment of renewable energy and increase Sri Lanka's ability to adapt to climate change in ways that contribute to sustained, inclusive, market-based growth. As threats and challenges evolve, our security approach must also evolve. But regardless of what we face, our greatest strength is and will continue to be the alliances and partnerships which support our Indo-Pacific vision. Later this year, we'll be working with Sri Lanka on an environmental security conference where the links between security and climate change will be discussed and how we can work together in this arena more critically. I am confident we will see the emergence of a stronger and more resilient Sri Lanka that is increasingly capable of protecting its sovereignty and developing strong institutions that will enable prosperity for all Sri Lankan people.
Because one of the key themes that the Indo-Pacific strategy talks about right off the bat is the inclusiveness factor of having to work with allies and partners. You see, the Indo-Pacific strategy starts out with a commitment. It says the United States is committed to promoting a free and open, connected, prosperous, resilient, and secure Indo-Pacific region.
A publication of this nature simply highlights the Indo-Pacific strategy of the President Biden's from the United States government standpoint. The policy research papers from South Asian scholars are also highlighting the regional perspectives that provides nuance and balanced point of views. The pragmatic challenges and the opportunities presented through this strategy are among the key variables that had been researched by the authors.
I think it is our primary responsibility as strategists, as well as international relations and security scholars, to bring this kind of conversations out in the open. We need the academic deliberations, we need the academic research, but in the real world context, we really need publications, thinking, focus on policy matters.
Minister of Power and Energy Kanchana Wijesekara says no decision has been taken to suspend the National Fuel Pass QR system from the 10th of April, contrary to the speculation. Minister Wijesekara in a tweet noted that National Fuel Pass data will be analysed to gradually increase the quotas allocated. He also said the decision on the system will be taken into consultation with Finance Ministry and other stakeholders in the next few months. The National Fuel Pass QR code system was introduced to filling stations across Sri Lanka from August last year to prevent overcrowding near filling stations amid fuel shortages and to put an end to fuel stocks being sold at black market prices during the height of the crisis. Welcome back. The International Finance Corporation announced that they will provide a $400 million cross-currency swap facility to Sri Lanka to help the island nation to fund essential imports. The IFC said that it expects this financing to boost confidence in the investor community and to attract fresh capital inflows to support the local economy.
Releasing a statement today, the International Finance Corporation said the Commercial Bank of Ceylon, Nations Trust Bank and Sampath Bank will receive the facility to fund about 30% of imports, including medicine, food and fertilizer. The funds will provide a much-needed foreign exchange cushion for Sri Lanka, which is grappling with its worst financial crisis in over 7 decades, partly triggered by a severe shortage of dollars. According to World Bank data, the island nation's economy is estimated to have contracted by 9.2% in 2022 and is expected to shrink a further 4.2% in 2023. The IFC further stated that it expects this financing to boost confidence in the investor community, attract fresh capital inflows to support the local economy. The statement added that IFC is also working on further plans to support client banks with other long-term funding and advisory services in the future.
Oil prices inched lower in volatile trade today as a stronger dollar and fears of recession risks offset gains arising from Russia's plans to deepen oil supply cuts. Meanwhile, Russia yesterday halted oil supplies to Poland as the first batch of Polish Leopard tanks were delivered to Ukraine the day before.
West Texas Intermediate U.S. crude futures traded at $76.09 a barrel, or 0.3% lower from the previous session. Meanwhile, Brent crude futures were down by 0.36% and settled at $82.86 a barrel. Both benchmarks closed more than 90 cents higher on Friday. Fears of a hawkish Fed returned to the fore on Friday after the Personal Consumption Expenditure Price Index shot up 0.6% last month after gaining 0.2% in December. Adding to the downside pressure, U.S. crude oil inventories surged to the highest level since May 2021 last week. On the supply side, Russia plans to cut oil exports from its western ports by up to 25% in March versus February, exceeding its previously announced production cuts by up to 5% of its output during the month. Oil prices have fallen by about a sixth in the year since February 24th last year when Russian troops first marched into Ukraine. Meanwhile, Russia halted supplies of oil to Poland via the Druzhba pipeline yesterday following Poland's delivery of Leopard tanks to Ukraine the day before.
The State Minister of Investment Promotion, Dilum Amunugama, says that the BOI will be granted more powers to facilitate ease of doing business in Sri Lanka. His remarks following the President's recent proposal of combining the BOI and the EDB to a single economic commission to expedite the process of granting approval for businesses. Speaking to AdaDerana State Minister of Investment Promotion, Dilum Amunugama clarified that the President's remarks refer to a new investment law currently being developed to facilitate swift investment approvals.
Recently, President Ranil Wickremesinghe stated that the government plans to set up a new economic commission combining the Board of Investments and the Export Development Board in order to grant quick approvals for projects.
Now we are holding discussions to establish one economic commission instead of the Board of Investment and the Export Development Board in order to provide approval from a single establishment. The work related to that has been handed over to State Minister Dilum Amunugama. We expect that he'll be able to conclude these activities successfully and hand over a report within the next 2 to 3 months.
Following these remarks, the trade unions of the Board of Investments requested a meeting with the State Minister of Investment Promotion, Dilum Amunugama, to discuss the proposals of the President further. Speaking at the meeting today, Investment Promotion State Minister Dilum Amunugama said the Board of Investments of Sri Lanka will be granted more powers in the future with the intention of further facilitating investors through speedy approvals for investment projects. He stressed that the new powers would see investors given more efficient clearance processes for relevant projects, offering investors additional certainty and clarity. Attention was drawn at the meeting by the minister to a new business model called the plug-and-play model, where all clearances and other prerequisites will be in place before the project is awarded to any investor. According to the new model, business firms are not required to focus on the basic requirements for setting up a business as everything is arranged by the BOI. Also during the meeting, convener of the Joint Trade Union Alliance, Mahesh Abegunawardena, pointed out that delays owing to the inefficiency of other institutions when granting approvals for projects are often considered delays of the BOI. Referring to the President's recent remarks at the Hantan International Bird Park, the convener of the Joint Trade Union Alliance highlighted that while the BOI did not have delays on its end, the BOI was blamed for not granting approvals on time, causing a major impediment.
What Techi is talking about is it is not just merging the 2 or 3 agencies, but what he wants is a fully empowered body which could get all approvals and execute investments very fast so that the ease of doing business index will go up, and he actually wants it to be done in a week or 2.
Expressing his views on the matter further, State Minister Dilum Amunugama stated that a new investment law will be made to facilitate swift investment approval.
We're giving more powers to BOI, but it is not about the powers. It is there is a oversight committee which he has appointed to do a sort of investment law, because obviously whatever the commission or the BOI or whatever it's called will have to be backed by the new laws which will fast track things. Because right now also it's according to the law only you have to get 70 entities to approve this. So it's not just putting EDB, BOI and SLASIC together. It's all about this new high-powered agency which would approve and also execute investments very fast.
That was our bulletin tonight on First at 9, and we will be back again tomorrow with more updates at the same time. Anuradha Wickramasinghe will be coming up next with world news. Stay safe and have a good night.
For news and information you can trust 24 hours a day, visit AdaDerana.lk.